Welcome to Joe's Astrology, and we're talking about Mars and Taurus. I'm reading from a book here, and this is a short one. Mars and Taurus reflects a desire nature that seeks to become self-sustaining and self-reliant. Because with Mars, we're talking about desires. What are your desires? If you have Mars and Taurus, your desires could be to become self-sustaining and self-reliant. For example, I have Mars in the second in Porphyry house system and whole sign. I would say I have Mars in the second. So kind of like Mars and Taurus. No matter what I try to do, if I depend on other people, it somehow gets thrown back on me. And you really see this Mars and Taurus in action. Desire to become self-sustaining and self-reliant subconsciously. And if I really sit down and contemplate, and I think if you have Mars in Taurus, or especially Mars in the second house, and you're having these kind of themes in your life, and if you really sit down and think about it, like if I sit down and really think about it, that is truly what I want. If I analyze my life, that's kind of in and out what's been happening. Not to get too specific about me into that story, but just as an example, this placement will correlate to a soul that desires to discover, actualize, and establish its own value system and the meaning of life reflected in those values. So Mars is a very combative, contradictory planet. So when we're talking about desiring to discover, actualize, and establish your own value system, Taurus is values. Mars is very independent. And that's where he gets that from. Other than from just reading people's charts and seeing that that's what they say, that correlates with that. As a result, there is an instinctual resistance to accepting or adopting the value system of anyone else, including the value system of the existing society that the soul is born into. Now that I think about it, you really, anywhere Mars is in the chart, you can really look and see where those aspects, those independent aspects of yourself are. And people might say that they're not very independent. Everyone has Mars in the chart. So that's where you can find these attributes. Mars and Taurus correlates to a deeply internalized focus that generates a defiant stance of separateness and independence from the overall circumstantial conditions of society. Remaining instinctively separate from those conditions allows the Mars and Taurus person to become aware of the types of desires they need to act upon that will allow for an actualization of the values that most perfectly reflect the meaning of the current life. Great rewards will come through sustained efforts focused on the goals and objectives that will lead the soul forward in its evolutionary requirements. The house that Mars in Taurus is in, the house that the sign in Taurus is on, and the aspects that Mars makes to other planets and the houses that those planets are in will correlate to the specific focus and subjective consciousness in which the soul actualizes the individual sense of meaning for its life and the value system that reflects that meaning. Self-reliance will be learned through these dynamics. Everyone to a degree is learning self-reliance. It's really a matter of degrees. Sexually, Mars in Taurus reflects a desire nature that seeks to use sexual energy. Before I get into that, a lot of this is very deep. I'm becoming aware of this as I'm reading these. If we just look at Mars and Taurus, I've heard an astrologer say it's like hustling for money. That like if you have some type of alignments where you're in sales or in something like that, you could have Mars in the second, Mars in Taurus, where you're always hustling for money. It might not be a great placement for Mars and in the chart, because it could show that you're always struggling for money. That's also what that is. This could be a lot of Virgo stuff where you're struggling to find food and nourishment, where you're struggling to get money. Or it could also be, in a more positive sense, if you've taken the opposite route and you've had more focus on money, depending on the other things in your chart, it could be a drive, a desire to have a lot of money. To think of like hoarding things. It could be someone who just tries to accumulate a lot of things and a lot of money because of that. Because there's something to do with that Mars, those Mars attributes. Sexually, Mars in Taurus reflects a desire nature that seeks to use sexual energy as a vehicle for the metamorphosis of emotional and psychological limitations. In order to accomplish this, the soul will create sexually confrontational situations in which the emotional and psychological reality and the needs that reflect this reality surface into awareness. At worst, this can manifest as sexual violence in one form or another, relative to the desire to become self-reliant. Mars in Taurus can manifest as strong masturbatory tendencies. As a result, the sexual nature is strong and constant. The Mars in Taurus soul is strongly grounded in the body, manifesting a strong physical and sexual magnetism that is instinctive. That's where you think of Mars, the body, physicality, muscles. Taurus, the sensual side of the wheel, being ruled by Venus. This magnetism creates a vibration of attraction that creates the necessary sexual experiences through which the soul learns about the nature of sexual energy and the proper or improper use of it. On the one hand, the sexual nature can be quite primitive, in the sense that Mars in Taurus can focus on sex for its own sake. A desire for intense physical stimulation only, as if the soul is somehow separate from the body and emotions. On the other hand, the intensity of sexual experience that the Mars in Taurus creates instinctively unlocks the depths of the emotions that lead to the soul. Therefore, a progressive dissatisfaction will occur when sexual energy is limited to just physical intensity. This dissatisfaction reflects the Mars in Taurus core desire for a total connection to their soul and the soul of their sexual partner. By experiencing the limitation of just physical sex, Mars in Taurus person evolves into sexual desires that seek total absorption with the sexual partner, and thus absorption to the soul within. I think he's getting into the opposite, to the polarity there, would be Mars in Scorpio. Dissatisfaction, Mars. Physical, just the physical, Taurus. Until this is realized, the dynamics of sex as power, control, manipulation, and being attracted to others as sexual objects, or others being attracted to the Mars and Taurus person as a sexual object will occur. That's like using these Scorpio dynamics in a lower form. These dynamics of sex as power, control, and manipulation. Now, how many people have that could be in relationships where they're doing this and they're not even realizing it, and there really is no real soul connection, and there might not be a possibility for that. When this occurs, the dynamics of sexual addiction, sexual slavery, sexual infidelity, and relationships that are created for sexual reasons only will occur. The real lesson begins when Mars and Taurus transmutes profane sex to sacred sex. They must transform themselves from the prostitute or gigolo to the pure state achieved when the soul and body are united through sacred sexual practices. I mean, I would say a majority of people with Mars and Taurus, I apologize if you're watching this. You probably would have turned it off by now. It's this has got to be the more or less the minority. The specific types of desires that reflect these archetypes are determined by the house that Mars is in. the house that the sign Taurus is on, the aspects Mars is making to other planets, and the houses that they are in. Also, their lives evolve. As their lives evolve, these individuals must eventually embrace the Scorpio polarity. In essence, this means to create a desire to focus on the nature of their motivations, desires, intentions, and overall psychological dynamics. Asking why are my desires what they are? They need to move away from this is just the way I am to this is why I am this way. See, most people, that's what I would say most people would be, this is just the way I am. I don't want to know why. Or I don't have the time to think about why. This polarity demands that such individuals allow themselves to grow from the limitations that the instinct of self-isolation imposes to a reality that allows acceptance of reality as relative. Thus they see that other people's values, beliefs, ways of being are just as important and valid as their own. Also, I think that going into the Scorpio really could facilitate change. You think of Scorpio as change, transformation, Taurus as being stubborn, not change, really fixed and possessive energy, and people are subconsciously intelligent at the very least, and a lot of them know that if I do ask those questions, then I might give up X, Y, and Z, and I don't want to give up X, Y, and Z, whether that be a person, a job, anything that they have in their life. Famous people with Mars in Taurus. It has Catherine the Great, Robert De Niro. I don't know if I have Robert De Niro's chart. I have to take a look if I have his chart in my playlists. But that's Mars in Taurus. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.